Nobody knows the system better than me. Which is why I alone can fix it.
Those words, now the title of the revealing tell-all book documenting the final year of the administration of Donald Trump. 2 months after Biden was sworn into office, Pulitzer Prize-winning reporters Philip Rucker and Carol Leonnig sat down for an hours-long interview with the 45th president at his understated Mar-a-Lago club in Florida. Among several alarming admissions in their new book, I Alone Can Fix It, they write this, and we quote, Trump regrets his response to protests last summer in Minneapolis, Portland, Seattle, and other cities. Quote, I think if I had to do it over again, I would have brought in the military immediately, he said. Remaining with us is our friend Philip Rucker. Joining our conversation is another friend of ours, his Washington Post colleague, Carol Leonnig, Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter. As we mentioned, the pair have written yet another book, a new one on the Trump presidency, I Alone Can Fix It, Donald J. Trump's Catastrophic Final Year, which comes out tomorrow, wherever fine books are sold. Well, good evening to you both, and congratulations for the smattering of advanced reviews that I read this afternoon and tonight. Carol, tell us more about the last thing we raised here, Trump's regret over not calling out the military following the murder of George Floyd during the BLM protests. And a subset of that question, who was going to tell him if he wanted the 2nd Marines or the 82nd or the 101st to take positions in the city of Seattle?
Wow, Brian, that's a two-part question that's important. Let me deal with the first part first. You know, because you've covered this administration and chronicled it very well every night at 11 o'clock, that the former president, rarely regrets anything. And in fact, in our interview with Donald Trump, Phil and I learned that he really doesn't regret anything about 2020, except for one thing. Though it was one of the most catastrophic years we've seen in our history, his big regret is that he didn't unleash active duty military troops on the people who were exercising their First Amendment rights to protest the death of George Floyd and the chronic, systemic, racist system in which many black men and women have been killed at the hands of police. That was his big sadness. Now, for your second part of your question, what we learned and what was so chilling to us was that many insiders in the Trump administration felt very strongly that they had to basically band together to keep Donald Trump from sicking active duty troops on Americans in all sorts of cities, Seattle, Portland, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York. It felt so frequent a demand and a request from the president that Bill Barr told aides he was tired of going to the White House because he knew what the conversation was going to be. Let's send troops in. The president wanted to burnish his image and look like a tough law and order guy because he wanted to win re-election. And all of those people inside the administration saw right through that, and they worked to stop him.
Of course, they made up for a lot of that in Lafayette Park alone. Phil, as I read it, your scheduled interview at Mar-a-Lago was for an hour. It went for 2.5 or thereabouts. For people who will never get that distinct pleasure of sitting down for that long, A, what's it like? B, what shocked you the most during that conversation?
Well, Brian, it was an entirely bizarre scene for Carol and me. We came to the interview and Trump wanted to hold it in what is effectively the lobby of Mar-a-Lago at the dinner hour. So scores of his dinner guests were parading past us as we were trying to interview him about the serious substantive matters of his presidency. But He is so fixated on the 2020 election. He kept reverting back again and again and again to the election and to the conspiracies that we all know are not true. The falsehoods that he won Arizona, the falsehoods that there was fraud in Fulton County, Georgia. But in Trump's mind, it's so real. And he would tell it to us with the real sort of animated cadence. He thought people were going to finally figure out. He kept saying, I'm trying to get the word out here about the election fraud that simply doesn't exist. So what you have at Mar-a-Lago, or what you had on the day we were there at the end of March, is a king of Republican politics, sort of in his brigadoon with an imagined reality all around him that just doesn't stack up to the facts or anything else. And by the way, he's also filled with grievance. He brought up again and again people like Bill Barr, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the House. He even invoked the late Senator John McCain. All people that he made fun of, he said were unintelligent. He blamed them for things that had gone wrong. And he also blamed Mike Pence, his loyal vice president, for not doing what Trump considered to be the courageous thing on January 6th by trying to overturn those election results. The former president, still bitter about that.